We're getting a whistle because we just drew 3-3 to Norway. We're going to the end line and going again. And again. And again. Welcome to the Disloyal Idiots podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network. Christian Guzman joined alongside Andy Pregler and Steve Howler. And none of us are running sprints after a game, hopefully.
No, I did many times, but not today.
Oh, so for Steve, this was trauma reliving.
Walking out of the dome. So when I left my seat, the alma mater, like they were singing out the players were interacting with the students, blah blah blah. I walk out because they moved the student section. I used to hang around for it, but the students are on the other ass end of the building from me. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Took off, went down the stairs, was walking halfway across, and as we were rounding like near gate L, I looked over and I'm like, they're running 20s. Okay. And then, the more I saw more and more as things started popping up online including our latest viral sensation on the podcast, Mr. Christian Guzman's tweet. So the reaction was just like, oh, yeah, I had to do that at least twice during my career, and neither times it was a good thing.
I mean, look, my favorite, my two favorite things about it. One, that it was Christian's video, because I saw it first on one of the aggregators that did the HTCT Degooz on Twitter, and I was like, wait a minute, I know that handle.
Hold on.
Wait, I know that handle. The second part of it was Fran is as pissed as everybody else watching this game, which confirmed my theory that it's really funny that Syracuse is 1-1, and if you were to ask our reactions to each game, how we talked about last week's game would be how we'd want to talk about the win, and how we're about to talk about this week's game is how you'd expect us to talk about the loss. Which, to be fair, is that's how you know we're back. That is the true Syracuse football experience.
We are full sicko mode and rolling for this season.
Oh.
The stats speak for itself. Let's pull up the stats on the tweet that has now gone viral. We are at 1.9 million views, so we're almost at 2,000. We're at 510 bookmarks. We're at 7,000 likes, 1,000 retweets, and 270 replies.
Yeah, you done good, buddy. And Fran, to be fair, the story goes, Fran told the guys earlier this week, if I'm not impressed with what we're doing and we're not doing what we should be doing, you're going to run.
And that came from Dan Villari in the press conference.
Oh, is that where it came from?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember where it was quoted from. I didn't know if it was from, the general ether or it came out of the presser.
Yeah. Villari relayed Fran's message of, if you don't perform on Saturday, you're going to run.
Yeah.
And then Chris Carlson spoke to Demetrius Weatherspoon, and Demetrius Weatherspoon told Chris Carlson, Fran literally did the Herb Brooks thing of, where are you guys going?
Yep. That's awesome.
The other part the other story that Carlson got in there, again, there's just so many narratives about this game that just make it great. Apparently, at halftime, the players kicked the coaches out of the locker room and had a players-only meeting, which love that. But also the fact
at least it wasn't the Alabama players-only meeting, which included Kalen DeBoer at one point.
That is by definition not a players-only meeting.
It was only for maybe 2 minutes from what I read or something like that, but still.
Yeah, there's a lot to digest here, and I think my favorite part is that it really starts on Monday. So obviously, if you live under a rock, Syracuse beat UConn 27-20 in overtime. But the week started with Fran Brown getting up at a press conference, probably the most irritated that I have seen him as Syracuse head coach.
During that press conference, he would not stop fidgeting on the podium.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He kept on making a circle with his finger at the top of the podium. He was pounding it at certain points as well. He could not stop fidgeting at that podium.
It was interesting because I only heard the audio. I put it on in the background and listened to it. It's just really clear hates losing.
Yes.
thought we could beat Tennessee, and we did not, in fact, beat Tennessee. And then there was a lot of questions about players just not being good enough, and Fran's response simply being, "Well, if they aren't good enough, they're not going to play." But I don't know what they're going to look like yet until we get into practice, until we start sorting this stuff out. So if I had to guess, this was not a particularly fun week of practice for anyone involved.
No, and also wasn't a fun week of practice for starting tackle Trevion Mack, who
Which
is now
kills
out
Steve's
indefinitely.
dream of 2018 consistent starting offensive line.
Yeah, seeing we're probably going to be on our third starting offensive line going into this third week. So, yeah, about that.
And it's a short week.
Thankfully, it's Colgate. So, so far this season, like Andy alluded to, has been very strange. We find out next week how good this Tennessee team we played and hung with for a good chunk of the game on last week is when they face off against Georgia on Saturday. So we'll see what happens there. We have no idea how good UConn is. They are much improved from the UConn. Like, when a Syracuse fan thinks of UConn, they think, oh shit, they're really good at basketball and they're really bad at football. In fact, Mora has done some work. Like last year was a testament to that. Like they played us way closer than they should have. I don't think last year's game was ever in doubt, which was the opposite of this year's game, which was always in doubt until the last 4 drives of the game.
Hey, don't forget, UConn's quarterback is only 1 year younger than David Reese.
That's true, and has played just as many years of college football. He is also a 7th-year senior, which is mildly insane.
No, remember, David Reese is 8.
Oh, Reese is 8?
Yes.
Yeah, Reese has a medical red shirt or 2 thrown in there.
So does their quarterback. He just apparently has 1 less.
Yeah, I think I wrote about this in a preview that I did earlier this week. Jim Mora deserves a ton of credit for the transfer work that was done. One of the things that I was watching the game with my friend Tucker. He's at T150 on social media. He's written for the UConn blog before. We were college roommates together, and so this is always a very funny game. But he was telling me Skylar Bell, the wide receiver who had that catch that we're going to talk about in a bit. He apparently was offered 3 times the money to go to Michigan and opted to stay at UConn because he is from the Bronx, and Mora's whole thing is bringing a lot of these UConn guys home after failed attempts elsewhere kind of vibe and getting them to buy into the idea. Yeah, sound familiar?
Holy shit, we got one of them too.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you buy into the Fran Brown way of hitting the transfer portal, that is what Mora is doing, and it's leading to, on their offensive line, they had a former 4-star from Notre Dame. They have a former 4-star from North Carolina in their defense. They had a former Penn State 4-star in their secondary as well. And
then it's capped off by Wes Ho. A great move by Mora to put Wes O out there as the captain for the overtime coin toss.
Yeah, there's a lot happening there in this roster build, and UConn is a better team. There's a little bit of trolling in this team, but I think what surprised me the most in getting into the actual game. So we find out that Mack is out, which was a surprise. Grant, defensive back for Syracuse, was out, but that was alluded to in kind of leading up to the week after the Tennessee injury. What happens next is the inability to stop the run, and UConn's running backs, both very good. Both one was recruited, one was a transfer in. Both were not necessarily shaking off guys, but there was far too many yards before contact. And this was, again, an issue that we've kind of seen with Syracuse, where they were getting moved at the point of attack, and then the linebackers were having a really hard time kind of sifting through and getting to the running back levels. And UConn was not afraid to, as we saw with that quarterback, Even though he is as old as David Reese, not necessarily the greatest college quarterback to ever play the game. Steve Angeli definitely the better quarterback of the quarterbacks in this game.
For most
But
of the game. There was
yes,
about a quarter stretch in there, maybe 2/4 stretch where I was like, when we'll
right.
get onto that later, I'd assume too, but
Yeah, but what UConn did, and what I think we're going to see Colgate attempt to do, and what we're definitely going to see Clemson attempt to do, based off of Clemson's struggles in the passing game, teams are just going to run the ball on us in the first quarter and dare us to do something about it. I don't love that, but at least we can very quickly identify the problem, which, as Christian so eloquently put in the preseason first show, just tackle them, you fucks.
yeah, exactly. And that's going to be the thing. Even Colgate is going to line up and try and run the ball down our throats now, because we've shown over 2 games that at least in the first quarter we cannot stop the run. Now, both games we settled in after that. You know, the Tennessee game, the next 3 quarters looked fine. The UConn game, but ultimately, the run defense did show that it existed at various points.
It's not a great game plan when the first quarter is bleh.
Yeah. I mean, there was a stretch even with the offense. You could tell they, or it seemed like they were on script for at least the first 2 drives. And they were trying things that definitively were not working. And
So let's talk about it. Those first couple of drives, they should have been Syracuse scores in some degree. And yes, you can you can get into the philosophical idea of Fran should he or should not go for it on 4th and short and whatnot.
right.
That's a separate discussion, and I think it's a different discussion than you should execute on those plays.
Yes. But but Andy, you seem like you had an idea there.
No, the first one is the one that grinds my gears the most, just because I really hate that play call. Like, why are we running a trick play against UConn? I understand it's like early in the season, you're trying to figure, like, Villari is a bit of a wild card and you want to give him a look there. But
it's not necessarily a trick play either. Like, it was what it was. Like, we've shown Villari getting direct snaps. We've shown Villari in the Wildcat before. It's not like they busted out something completely brand new for UConn, whatever. How, because I could not tell from my seats are in the end zone. This was the far end zone from where my seats are.
yeah.
What was the yardage on that?
It was 4th and 2.
Okay, then I agree with you. I dislike the play call for different reasons. I don't like that play call on 4th and 2. I don't mind that they tried that play in that situation. Whatever. I'm not the head football coach there. And I don't mind going for it against, especially early in the game, against a team that you know you're a better team than, or at least you know you should be a better team than. This is, mentality going into that point of the game. Put it on your guys to show that you're the better team, and they did not do that. And then the second time it came up, you were in the same boat of, listen, I gave you guys the shot before. This is now your chance to, like, man up and show me that that was a fluke and that you're not going to fail again. Oh, shit, you failed again. Okay. And now we're 6 points off the board that could have been on the board, and momentum changes and all sorts of things happen, and then the rest of the stupidity ensues.
To give you an idea, every single offensive lineman in that game for Syracuse graded below the Mendoza line in terms of their run blocking grade.
That tracks.
Yeah, I mean, if you just just the raw stats, like Syracuse, the total rushing yards are skewed by the Angeli sack numbers. So, like, if you take out the Angeli sack numbers, in general, you're looking at less than 75 yards gained on the ground with over 20 rushing attempts. Like, that is, you did better against Tennessee. And like, that's the point that like I'm confused by here. And I guess is why, Fran has the guys run after the game, because obviously it's a little bit of a different line, but they were winning one-on-one contact battles. They were winning the point of conflict in the trenches against Tennessee. And UConn, on the other hand, they were just not doing any of that. And then there was multiple times in the game. I know this is not quite the running game, but I think it's kind of related to something that must have been going on with offensive line communication and Jelly pre-snap reads or whatnot. The number of free blitzers on both run plays to the opposite edge and on passing plays, especially on the Angeli strong side, like I think in one of the articles that I was reading by Carlson, Angeli took the blame on at least one, on the one that was a fumble, and might have taken blame on another.
Yeah, the strip sack. He basically said, I identified the wrong defense. Like, I made the wrong call.
Yeah,
there were a couple.
but it was happening so often.
Well, I don't know if it. UConn was definitely bringing more than I expected them to.
They were blitzing a lot, yeah.
Having much more success with bringing more than I expected them to. If in the ensuing weeks, as more teams start to just bring the house against us, because why not? It had us completely rattled. If during that, and to be fair, as the game wore on and UConn wasn't as fresh, Angeli did start kind of picking up some of those quicker reads, quicker hits, getting rid of the ball. In the ensuing weeks, if we do that from the start, there will be a problem. And I think it's going to sound strange, but I think that might be one of the biggest things we miss from McCord, is that ability to read when he needs to get the ball out early, which Angeli is working on. The poise and the ability to read what a defense is doing and know when you need to get that ball out is going to be paramount to where the rest of this year plays out, especially with a rotating casted offensive line again, because, well, we can't have nice things.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things to circle, because right now, like we're saying, there's a clear game plan for teams, which is blitz, run the ball, and then see how Syracuse adapts. I think one of the other things in this first half that was not necessarily my favorite was that obviously when you can't stop the run, it makes everything else just kind of more difficult to do on defense. I thought the secondary played fine. I didn't think that they were elite in any way, shape, or form. But one of the things that I was intrigued by was that UConn was a big fan of the wheel route. Like, a lot of their big chunk plays that they did end up getting were wheel routes, whether it was a running back, a tight end, or a wide receiver out of the backfield. And we were just, I know another one of Christian's pet peeves is that Syracuse really does not like to play man. They prefer to play a lot of zone on defense. But those wheel routes were just slipping through zones and finding soft spots a little bit too easily. And again, I think that's just another thing we'll see teams attack us on, because it's now 2 straight weeks of this being a very easy to exploit vulnerability. But again, that probably changes a bit. That one in particular probably changes a bit if the run defense is a bit more solid and teams feel like Syracuse isn't selling out as much to stop the run.
You had a hidden ability last year with Marlowe, and especially with Justin Barron, of having linebackers who could cover.
Yeah.
And Gary Bryant, Anwar Sparrow, and Anton Delorier very, very much seem like linebackers who are definitely pass rushers first.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for a 3-3-5 or a 4-2-5 to work, those linebackers need to be very adept in coverage.
Yeah, which may predicate a shift at some point in scheme and or how Robinson is dealing with utilizing that personnel. One thing I noticed on the stat sheet is you have 3 of your top 4 tacklers on the day are DBs.
Yes.
Samuel, Deuce, and Peel. If that's the case, when your 2 starting corners and your starting safety are your leading tacklers, we got a problem at the point of attack, boys.
Imagine if Grant's in there as well.
Yeah. That's nothing good can come from that look on the stat sheet.
It definitely is. I think one of the things that we should head off right here is that one of the narratives coming out of these first 2 games is what should Syracuse do with or not do with Elijah Robinson. And I think, in my opinion, this is a situation where we have 2 games that are 2 very different situations here, where obviously the defense has not looked great. But Robinson's track record is so strong. I'm still thinking this is more of a personnel issue than any kind of coaching issue. Like, there are things schematically I see that they're trying to do and execute on, but the execution is obviously just not there.
Both games that we've seen, as the game has gone on, the defensive scheme has drastically shifted and drastically improved. Whether it's an issue for scheming for what they're opening with, I don't know. But I know Robinson has been able to adapt whatever he's got going. This game, after that second touchdown in the second quarter, we didn't give up another score, and they didn't really threaten a ton. Like, even their field goals, like they didn't threaten an absolute ton. The Tennessee game, we were able to match Tennessee shot for shot for the rest of the game after that first quarter. Now, if it takes us getting punched in the face in order to make the adjustments, that's not going to bode well. But the fact that we are making the adjustments is huge. Like, that's a great look.
There is one thing I want to talk about defensively as well. And Steve, hopefully you can shed some light on this as well, because it definitely has to do with the trenches. And it's a subject that I actually talked with Chris about before the game. If you can't pass rush against UConn, what's going to happen? And apart from the Kevin Jobity sack.
You want me to have an answer for this?
I mean, you know what?
I would be getting paid a ton more money if I come up with an answer for this.
Or just at least an additional analysis. Because if Kevin Jobity sack is the only thing you have to show for good pressure against UConn.
And good pressure would be a drastic overstatement from what we saw.
So, what can you do? Is it as simple as personnel, or is there something scheme-wise that maybe Syracuse hasn't tried that maybe they could potentially do to improve the pass rush?
It's a loaded question. Because they can always bring new looks. They can always bring more pressure from different angles, from different personnel, from the linebackers. But at the same time, if you are doing that and not getting actual pressure and forcing UConn or forcing your opponent out of their rhythm, then there's no point, because you just lose a man. Now, they did that a couple times, and Fagnano, close enough, UConn's quarterback, did actually, make the play. Like, there are multiple times, especially as the game wore on, that Syracuse's defensive line did flush him. And whether that was pressure or extra pressure, bringing up, some sort of blitz package, I do not know, because I was also watching an 8-year-old during the game. But, there were multiple times where after the snap, I would see UConn's QB get flushed and then make a play, which at that point, it puts it on the DBs. Like, the line and the front seven are doing their job. But, like, if the guy can make plays, the guy can make plays. There's no easy answer for that one, and it's going to take a lot more film watching than I can do to figure that one out.
Yeah, I don't. I'm having a hard time finding the exact like pressure rate stats for this game. I'm gonna have to dig into some alternate box scores and whatnot and find it.
So
I think one of the
PFS tells me that Syracuse totaled, in addition to the sack, a quarterback hurry from David Omopariola, and then 13 total quarterback hurries.
So that's not terrible. I do think that there are at least two or three plays where, again, if we go back to Christian's all-time mantra, just fucking tackle him. There's at least a few more sacks in there. But there was a lot of arm tackling at the legs happening there, which guys, come on. But that aside, one of the things that I think we relied a lot on last year was Fadil Diggs and pressure off the edge. And this year, we obviously just don't have that quality of edge disruptor who can just completely destroy one side of the line with their singular ability, which means that, Christian, to your point earlier about the linebackers, one of the things that I think we're going to see more of during the season, but I'm not sure if it's actually going to be to the betterment of the defense or not. We're gonna see some of those like that blitz against Tennessee that they ran that got in jelly, where it was a delayed blitz, where it was let the line go in and clog up some gaps, stunt guys, do whatever, and then send the linebacker a beat later through a designed gap that you have created. Like I think that's something that we need to see more of. The problem is that, as we mentioned, when you're playing zone coverage, that means you're sacrificing somebody who's playing a large chunk of your middle zone. So you got to kind of pick your spots for that. And like I've said so far, I'm not loving Syracuse's ability right now to be in a position where we can definitively have like, oh yeah, they're going to pass on this play because our run defense is so bad. It's 3rd and 9, like a halfback draw on a 3rd and 9 play probably gets you pretty close to the first down marker based off of what I've seen so far. So it does become, I think this all kind of leads back to the issue of like, if you can't stop the run on defense, everything else becomes infinitely harder because the offense has that easy button of, oh, we can just hand the ball off. And then that kind of eliminates all the things that you're doing to get extra pressure in the passing game. It's eliminating all these extra things that you're doing to try to improve pass coverage from the linebacker side.
You know who
So
deserves
yeah,
a lot of credit and probably another ice bath? Cornell Perry. Because dude
yeah.
slides in for Devin Grant. And Cornell Perry is literally everywhere on the field. And you start to realize why that star position, rover position, whatever you want to call it, is so important in an A5 safety formation.
100%. 100%.
I mean, I don't know if anybody else saw, but like Justin Barron was with the team. He was
He threw
pre-game. He was doing a lot of different
to the students.
Love that. I
He was
mean,
with,
again,
Chad,
kind of
he was
going
with
back.
Chad Smith on the head like physical guy for Syracuse.
Yep.
During the quad walk.
Oh, nice.
Love it. So you look at how good Barron was last year in that position. Yeah, turns out it's kind of vital to this defense.
Yep. Real imperative.
So we're at the halfway point of the show. We haven't talked about the offense yet. We've talked a lot about this defense that, again, depending on where UConn goes this year, giving up 20 points to UConn might not seem so bad in like 5 or 6 weeks. Again, we will see. The offense, I alluded to some concerns I had earlier with running the ball, alluded to some concerns we had with like just not picking up the right reads. If you look at the box score,
it's the quietest
and
400 yards in your life.
Yeah,
I knew exactly where you were going with that.
I looked up.
Yeah,
in
this is
the fourth quarter. I looked up at the board, and I'm just like, "Wait, what?" Like that's like the 10th all-time performance in Syracuse passing history, and all of us were just like, "What the?
Steve,
How?"
And 48 minutes into that game, Syracuse is booing Angeli out of the dome.
Yeah. Like you should have heard some of the things I heard around me. I cannot repeat them on this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a game where what I was seeing and what I was feeling does not match up with what like the stats tell me factually happened. Now that we've all admitted that that was our shared experience here, um, I guess like let's just set the table here. I think the thing for me that got it was there were just a lot of plays where Angeli really was having a hard time making the easy throws, or was making throws unnecessarily difficult. And I think that that made him look a lot worse than he actually performed. The ones that I'm thinking of are every time he would try to check the ball down to the running back over the middle, he got so rattled by one pass deflection. He started doing a Tim Tebow pass off of his back foot on every single one of those, which objectively is worse. But there was a lot of that like rattling that seemed to be hitting him, and yeah, not. I was calling for Ricky Collins in the second quarter. Like I'm not gonna lie here. I'm
I
I'm
think we all
curious
are.
what of his game.
Fran addressed that.
Yeah. Okay.
And and I think we can. I think all three of us can unashamedly say, yeah. I don't think any of us would have been disheartened to see Ricky Collins at some
Not
point in
at
that
all.
game.
Not at all. Would have been
Be-
happy as a clam in the moment.
Because Steve and I noticed this in the Slack, and we talked about it in the Slack, is that you go back to Syracuse quarterbacks of the past. Let's take Garrett Schrader. What was Garrett Schrader known for in the passing game? He was known for looking at his first read and then deciding for 5 years if he wanted to throw to said read before getting flushed out of the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Angeli sees what we saw at times was that Angeli was seeing his first read and saying, I don't care if you're open by a sliver or not, I'm forcing this ball down your throat.
Yeah, there were a good number of those, and I was not a happy camper to see that. That said, he did settle in and ultimately went through progressions and did effectively what he was supposed to be doing. But it took most of a game against an opponent we should have probably put on ice earlier than the last minutes of overtime. But yeah, that really was shades of Schrader in years gone by, where it was just like, all right, we're going through our first check down. Oh shit, I'm sacked. That was it. Like there was no definition. There was no decisiveness. It was just like, I think I'm gonna try and throw it here. Nope, I'm on my back. Okay,
And
cool.
for the fans who want more Yassine Willis, I would like more Yassine Willis also. But the way Steve Angeli likes to use the check down, and you saw it a lot. He likes to use this check down.
He does.
You need Will Nixon in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. The only, and I don't know if it's the way that Nixon runs his offense, but the only real checkdowns that I noted, and the only ones that Angeli really picked up on, were that leak over the middle and like to dump down to him sitting in like a 3-yard curl
Yep.
and then turn and hope for yak yards. There's no flaring, there's no trying to get them into open field. It's just like run everybody out and hope that there's somebody to dump right in front of you.
And see, here's where that came in as well. He did have a couple of those with Willis,
Yep.
but there was I remember one distinctively where Willis just did not turn his head at all. And he tried
Yeah.
tried a couple of those, and if you think back to last year, that's where LeQuint made a ton of money.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing too is if you're going to check down like that, you need to get to that point in the progression quicker, because by a number of times, by the time he dumped the ball down to Allen or Nixon, you got LeQuint on my brain, sorry. By the time he dumped the ball down, linebackers were already reacting to it. There was nobody that wasn't coming at it. There were probably 2 or 3 times where he was able to actually turn and do something. Most of the time, somebody had already realized, oh yeah, there's this guy standing wide open in front of me. I should probably cover him. So
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway that I have from Angeli is just even in the Tennessee game, he seemed far more decisive. Obviously, sometimes some of those reads maybe were not the best reads. But even in this game, like there were a couple throws that he made where the throws just screamed, I'm playing the video game and I meant to do a hard throw, but instead I did a soft throw, but I don't actually know what I'm doing. And oh, by the way, this ball is being duck armed into double coverage in between the zone and is lucky to not be
Oh, you mean that time
picked
when
off. Like,
you mean that time where I'm spamming X to start the play, and
mhm.
then I spam X a couple of
Oh
few too
god.
many times, and all of a sudden it's a floated ball to the tight end?
Hmm.
yeah,
Also,
exactly.
there
Like
were
that.
there were
That was
probably
Angeli's vibe.
probably 3 picks that weren't picks.
Oh my god,
In
I
that
tweeted
game.
that during the game. UConn
Yeah.
got so unlucky.
Like, now on the flip side, like Angeli, when he was in that funk, those balls were coming out like legitimately you could have shot them on duck hunt. It was bad. Like I'd watch the replay on the board and I'm like, oh, that's like halfway end over end. When he settled in, again, like getting himself back
Yes.
under himself, just go with it. Um, he got back into his rhythm. He was able to find his form again. But when he was rattled, he got really rattled. So if we can find a way moving forward to keep him in the game, and it seems like, he was one of the guys in the locker room at halftime saying, coaches, leave, we got this. I also pulled up the Chris article, so uh but like, if he's of the ilk that he's taking those reins, I think we do have some promise moving forward that he is going to be able to, stay composed and maybe realize that he got away from himself in this and can use that moving forward.
There is a hidden factor in this as well, and it's one of the other injuries that was the less talked about because he played, but definitely wasn't at 100%, or else he would have been out there for more snaps, and that's Jonte Cook.
Right.
I feel like if you have Jonte Cook there,
Yeah.
even closer to 100%, I think Joey feels more comfortable because it's clear, especially during the Tennessee game, that he had the best connection offensive-wise in the receiving game with Cook.
Yeah. Yeah, Cook and Villari, and without Cook to
Yeah.
take the pressure off, you're able to focus on Villari more too.
But to be fair, a lot of credit to Dan Villari. I mean, he clearly went to the Arande school, a fine spot in zone and sit there.
Yep. Yeah, and that's, if
Yeah.
we can just continually find a tight end, like maybe next year it's Tremble, maybe like we can just find a tight end that knows how to find a seam in the zone. Sure, why
Hey,
not?
remember, Tremble's your Sam linebacker.
True.
Well, no, he's playing both ways allegedly, but yeah, I think we'll see what goes there. Yeah, I think the receiver thing was interesting. Um, once things did get going, and I think we talked a lot about like how things were not going. That second half, that halftime spot, like players only meeting, like something obviously clicked there. Angeli was a lot more decisive, and Justice Ross Simmons was really the big winner here, and like that was something where going into the season or going into the Tennessee game, I forget if he was just knocked up, or it was a situation where, hey, we knew he wasn't going to be 100%, for the entire game, similar to the way that Cook was in this one. Um, Obviously, he has the game-winning touchdown grab in overtime that was just absolutely insane. But he was a lot more active and involved in targets, and Jelly was lasering the ball to him a lot more. I do think that it's clear, even though Gil, Villari, Cook are big players here. Um, JRS. I keep wanting to say JSR for some reason, but JRS is going to be a big player for Syracuse, and Angeli does have a level of comfort with him that I think is really important for Steve. What you're talking about, like, hey, blitz is on. I need to know where somebody's going to be. He is going to be somewhere near the sidelines, and I just need to whip it as hard as I can in a position where only he can get the ball.
Yeah.
And yes, Chris and I talked to him during training camp this year. I talked to him about a story I was doing with Jalen Hornsby, who also had a pretty good game in the limited
Oh, yeah.
showing that he had today on Saturday. And I asked him about about what he saw in Jalen, and he said because they have similar body types, he spread the message that he thinks about, which is, hey, we're bigger receivers. It's our job to get up there and come down with the ball. If it's in a 50-50 situation, we should
Right.
be coming down with 90% of those balls. Like, it's our job to go up there as those type of receivers to get up and grab those damn balls. Like,
Yeah.
they shouldn't be out muscled by a DB in those 50-50 situations. And you clearly saw that on that overtime play. That DB is draped over Justice Ross Simmons.
Yep.
And he makes it his job to say, this is my ball, and I know where this plane is.
Yeah, and I'm going to look at a silver lining for Jonte Cook being a little banged up in that it seems like that is helping at least work on the timing and the connection with Ross Simmons a little bit. He found him during the Tennessee game as well, but when you're forced to get on the same page as him, that can only help down the long term when both of them are on the field and ready to rock.
There's
Andy's trying to talk. but it's
clearly
not working.
needs to be a depth. Oh no. Yeah, it turns out I should probably lean into my microphone. There needs to be a depth of arsenal here. Like this is not a team that I think, even as good as Cook is, I don't necessarily think this is going to be the like, hey, spam the one receiver for all the receptions and all the yards kind of offense. Like if this offense is going to work, there needs to be a level of spreading the wealth out. And as we just talked about earlier, like I don't think the running game or the running backs are going to be as active in the passing game as they were last year. And so now that really goes to your wide receiver number 3, your wide receiver number 4, your tight ends to pick up a lot of those targets in the passing game as well.
I mean, you see that just in the spread of the receptions. Valari leads with 6, but then right behind him, kind of contrary to Andy's point, but based on the crap plays, Will Nixon's right behind Valari with 6. But then you still go down the list. Ross Simmons and Tyshawn Russell tie with 5, and then Daryl Gill and Cook have 4. So, like, I almost said Deuce Chestnut because for some reason Syracuse's website
Yeah.
has it as Deuce because they both wear 2. So they have to fix that in the box score.
Oh,
Yeah. But
Yeah,
besides the
there's a
point,
couple of those floating
Yeah.
around because I was like, oh, he did that. No, he didn't.
God bless the PA announcer in the Dome. I guess I know who he is. He was a former sports management professor. I love him to death. But for almost the entirety of the first half, anytime Gary Bryant made a tackle, he said Jamie Trimble.
Mm. He did. I can confirm he
Yes.
did.
So it's the first game for everyone, guys.
That it was. So
yeah, exactly.
So, but going back to Andy's point, you
Um,
saw there that it was a spreading out of the receivers. As Andy momentarily drops, he's been
Oh,
having
wow.
internet problems. We'll
Yeah.
get to him in a sec, but um, it's that is something that I think has to be done for Syracuse, just in general.
Yep.
Just the spread of wealth, and I feel like on some of those plays, once again by Angeli, where the Boo Bird started to run out, it was very much a honing in on a receiver, and like I've got this. I need to target this guy instead of hey, you've got a talented receiver core. Use the rest of the guys on the field a bit more.
right.
And so, and again, we didn't even really see Justice Ross Simmons get heavy targets until that fourth quarter.
Well, and I guess that's the other thing too is we have a talented receiver core. We do not have a receiver core that is talented enough to completely overcome things. Like all of our receivers are individually talented, and there's a good depth. Like our floor of receiver talent has drastically increased. There's outside of maybe a healthy Jonte Cook, there's no one who's going to be that Aronde Gadsden, where you're like, I'm going to throw this up, and I'm 90% sure he's going to come down with it. And that ends up being a change from years past. There's usually always been one of those guys at least that is like, all right, I guess, no, I don't see anything else. I'm just going to chuck it up, and he's probably going to come down with it.
Ironically, you know what's also kind of missing?
Hmm.
One of my most common tweets from last year. Jackson Meeks in a slant route.
Yeah.
Because that was always good for 10 yards on a first down at some point.
Yep.
And by some point, I mean 4 or 5 times a game.
Right. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a scheme thing with how they're lining up and what they want to show, or if, I mean, a slant route is only as good as your wide receiver getting that first cut and actually beating the DB. If we don't have anyone who can run that route in that same manner, because DBs at this point, especially in league, are of a caliber where they will get on you and they will stick with you. There are some reasons that it could come from, like that they're not running it, but I'm with you that they need to bring that back up to the top of the list at some point here if
Because-
they have the personnel to use it.
Because Jackson Meeks in a slant route was a just deadly combination.
Yeah, worked fine preseason for the Lions too.
That was,
Yeah,
that was Jackson Meeks in a fade route in the end zone.
Well, yeah, that was nice.
Turns out Jackson Meeks just might be very good.
Lo and behold, he may just be good at football.
And it turns out it's like, why did you cut him preseason?
So that they
No
can
ways.
sign him back cheap later in the year.
Yeah,
That's the real reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely love modern NFL. So I think all these things, like, look, Syracuse did win this game. There are positives that we've kind of hit on. There are obviously things that we're very concerned about moving forward here. But like holistically, I think the thing that I'm most happy about is that we won this game and nobody seems happy. Like the players don't seem happy. Fran Brown clearly wasn't happy. Like there's a realization that like this is not up to the standard that we need to be at if we are going to survive the schedule, which is true. And that's kind of the interesting thing I think for this week going up against Colgate is how much does Fran experiment, and not so much in playing backups for the sake of playing backups, but hey, when that player doesn't run hard in the first quarter, like, are we just going to pull that guy and just play the backup for the rest of the game? Like, is this how? I guess my thing that I like, no one really has the answer to, but I'm most excited about for Friday night's game is mostly like how fired up and how locked in does this team come after what seems like a pretty rough game and what will most certainly be an absolute hell of a week of practice.
Oh, I don't want to be there on Monday. I don't want to see what practice looks like.
And to your point, Andy, to your first point in that thread, probably in previous years, the three of us would have gotten together and gone like, "Oh, thank God, Syracuse won that game." You remember that play?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh man, good times were had by all. It goes to show you again, like Valari brought it up in post game, the standard that now Fran has brought to the program.
Yeah.
It's that everyone now associated with the program is trying to live up to the standard of, hey, if it's not good enough, it's not good enough, despite a win or not. And yes, you can be thankful for a win, but it feels like everyone has bought into shifted expectations, and which has allowed us to think a little bit more critically and like, okay, we can say thanks for the win, but we'd rather talk about what we can do to improve in the future.
It's a shift.
I was actually going to bring that up earlier of like when is the last time you can think of a Syracuse coach that would have made them run after a game?
James
I
Arthur Boeheim?
absolutely not.
You think he wanted to be in the dome any longer?
You make great points. You make you make fantastic points. Jim is sprinting towards the locker room after the final whistle.
All right, I need to get over, grab some Italian food, and get to bed.
Yeah, I think and like that's the thing is like Syracuse. I think the honest answer is probably you got to go back to the a long time, because this obviously that was not the Mac style of coach. The less we talk about Gerg, the better. And
is it Ben
then
Schwartzwalder?
I kind of maybe
No. Military background.
St. Doug probably would have. I could see St. Doug doing it.
I think Doug would have done it privately. Like I think he would have waited for the band and the players to clear everything to clear out. Like he would have. Yeah, like I think that's like kind of the difference here is that Fran is not going to play any of these like
zero
SID. Yeah, exactly. Like he does not care about. He cares about the optics in the sense of like, oh, are you embarrassed that you have to run after the game? Well, shit, play better. Like do better.
Sucks.
Give me more.
I told you this was going to happen. You did the opposite.
So
F around, find out. This is how it works.
So is Fran crazy enough to institute Herbies after a game?
Why not?
I'm not going to say no.
And we're going to extend it to 50 yards or something like that.
Next thing you know, he's going to start having them run gassers after the game. Just
exactly
down
again
on the 50s.
Again,
like side to side on the field. Yep.
Again.
Oh,
Michael Ruzioni is not in the building.
It is kind of funny, just because it really was that scene from Miracle all over again. Like, hey, look, do you think that you can play like that when we play the Russians? Do you think you can play like that when we play Clemson? Do you think you can play like that when we play Notre Dame? Like, it is very aligned in the sense of, this is all because Fran and the staff know after this Friday, there is no game upon which I think Syracuse will be favored from the rest of the way out. Maybe BC, maybe Pitt, but like
BC at home, I see. But other than that, yeah.
There is one other game, and given how it's gone to begin the season, of a certain school that wears baby blue.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, yeah. Jury's out to see what happens by Halloween with that program, but I'm just assuming that people are going to see Bill Belichick and say, "Oh, favorite." But yes,
hey, the Patriots can no longer come to his practices, so you know.
You know what's great when you're a collegiate head coach is telling your players that one out of the 32 teams that you can feasibly be employed by are not welcome in the building. Mm-hmm. Absolutely great strategy there if you're a college coach.
So you're talking about a UNC team that beat Charlotte 20-3. That same Charlotte who lost to App State last week 34-11. I'm thinking they're probably not great.
I'll say this.
I saw by October, Belichick turns some semblance of something around. Like he's a good football coach. If he's either by then going to have turned it around or completely lost the team. Like there's no in between. It's a very binary situation here.
And here's what I'll say. I will say, because I've got the notifications on, the response has been mixed to the sprint video. The three of us back here are like, yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. There's a good amount of people like, this doesn't work. Why are you using exercise as punishment, blah, blah, blah. And a few of like, this is the quickest way to lose the locker room and stuff like that.
Most former players, I guarantee, will be like, yeah, he said they should run. They ran.
And also, if you think this is what makes the Syracuse locker room lose Fran, or vice versa, however that saying goes,
yeah,
that's the farthest thing that's going to happen.
There's been 20 other
The
things he's done that could have lost the locker room. That they're all bought in completely. Like, what is this
yeah.
gonna do?
There's on College Game Day this week, they were trying to bait Nick Saban into saying something about Kalen DeBoer. Like it was very clear that they were trying to get the Shaq hot mic moment with Saban in some way, shape, or form, and eventually he broke, and essentially and not like real broke, but broke
Yeah.
enough to say like one of the most important things as a head football coach is to set clear goals for the football team and to have positive rewards when they achieve those goals and immediate negative consequences when they do not reach those goals. And when you're talking about immediate negative consequences for not running, like that's where this comes in because I think the other part of this, like if you're just from the outside and looking at this, how sorry not to bring up a negative thing right at the end here, but like how many penalties did Syracuse draw or timeouts that they have to burn because guys were not coming on and off the field in time because they didn't have play calls, like just little things that are so in your control as a player that they just were not locked in on in this game. And so I think it's fine to, like Steve said, I think most players would say, look, when it's those kinds of issues, this is the punishment. Because, look, at this point, the only other thing you can do is bench him, and that might be what we see on Friday.
Fran said after the game, there's a certain way we want Syracuse football to look, and we didn't do that for 2 weeks.
I love that quote. He's our coach, and for a good reason. Kind of going into now that we're not on the 1 yard line of the show to continue to use this pun here. We talked about it for those that don't.
Blocking is better.
For those that might not have picked up on it already, this week's game is going to be Friday night, 7 p.m. against Colgate. Something that happened this week in reference to that game, John Wildhack spoke out about football scheduling, said that we're going to see more of these Friday night games because they basically help game the ACC TV viewing metrics. Basically, if you're on a Friday night, you are guaranteed pretty much 4 to 5 million viewers per game, which is not something that you're guaranteed when you're on Saturday and competing with every other college football game known to mankind.
And based on new ACC revenue sharing methods, because I've helped out with this for Syracuse's other sports, broadcasts, every Cuse click counts. So, like, viewership is directly tied to revenue sharing right now, based on new ACC models. So,
Yeah. So we're going to see more Friday night games. This one's on ACC Network. I think the other part of that press conference that we should probably mention here, Wildhack mentioned that there is going to be an announcement coming whenever Herm gets the paperwork done of a Big Ten opponent that Syracuse will be entering a scheduling agreement with. Just by my quick math, I know Steve is just absolutely loves that statement. Real quote, Steve. I listened to the whole press conference while I was trying to fix a screen. Real quote from the athletic director.
John Casillo is screaming into the void in LA somewhere.
Someone wake Johnny Flynn and Mike Rosario out of cryo sleep.
I wrote an article on my Substack just kind of quickly breaking down like the future scheduling agreements. It's going to be Rutgers. If we sign a 4-year home and home with them, it basically alleviates all of our scheduling issues until 2028. And I do not think that. I think that is just such an easy button for the aforementioned Herm to push. It makes too much sense.
And remember
especially
who the head
I think
coach is.
Yeah. There's a lot of ties here. Fran has obviously made a big push about being the best Northeast school. There's obviously the recruiting element now with half of the roster coming from New Jersey in some way, shape, or form. It just feels like
Syracuse can take away from New Jersey is a win.
Yeah, I just feel like it's going to be Rutgers. If it's not Rutgers, I'll be stunned. and it probably means that we need to get creative with our scheduling for the next few seasons.
Who's ready
Either
to
ways,
see
I think
Syracuse against
Christian.
Big Ten opponent Washington.
Yeah, Christian. Obviously, I think you're fairly okay with the Rutgers scheduling arrangement for selfish reasons. Steve, I'm assuming that you just don't want a repeat of any of the end era Big East Rutgers Schadenfreude games that were terrible
soon,
and
Andy.
awful.
Too soon.
I lived through those too. Okay, that's a shared trauma that we have. That's not a Steve is
Yeah.
old. Those
It was
games sucked.
not fun. Like, so
Ugh.
actively, some of those games still get replayed in my brain.
Okay, remember Fran was on the 2021 Rutgers team?
Did not, but now I did, and that makes me mad.
Fran was the defensive backs coach for Rutgers in 2021 when Syracuse played Rutgers in that game. Steve's looking it up, and I am not joking.
So now that we got the Rutgers of it out of the way,
After the heavy sigh
Christian,
from my co-host.
what else did I miss from this week because I only paid attention to the football team?
What happened?
Don't ask about the other football team.
Oh yeah, don't ask about. Oh yeah, that is what happened. Don't ask about the other football team.
Great. Okay. Wonderful. Good to know.
There was something that we should quickly mention at the end of this podcast because it is vegetable eating time, but not of our ilk, not of our viewers' ilk. For our ilk, Carmelo Anthony gets inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame this weekend.
Oh yeah, that happened. Congrats, Melo. That was really cool. I saw he shot it out. Cayenne. I saw Jim Boeheim was there. It seemed like there was some decent base. I saw the one clip on social where he mentioned Syracuse and there was a loud cheer. So I'm assuming that there was a decent Syracuse contingent up there. So congrats to Melo. I'm sure there will be a moment at a Dome game this year where he is recognized, even though that has not been announced yet.
Well, he will probably. I'm old.
Yeah.
How?
My freshman year of college was Carmelo Anthony's freshman year of college.
Hey,
He's
your kid could also be playing.
Well, remember, Boeheim was also there to get double enshrined, because also getting enshrined into the Basketball Hall of Fame this year was the 28 Olympic Redeem team. The 2000
Forgot about that. He was on that
Redeem
staff.
team. And as many people will know, Boeheim was a longtime assistant on USA Basketball when Coach K was the head coach.
Yep.
Yeah, great times there.
And you can blame Boeheim for teaching Coach K the 2-3 zone.
Is true.
That is a deep sigh for me there. Yeah. Also, something, a final basketball piece of news here that I think that neither of you have recognized yet. There were reports today that the USA is scheduling its final international window of 2025 game on November. Let me take a quick look at the calendar. Looks like they're trying to schedule it for November 22nd in Philadelphia. If that rings any bells, that is the day that Syracuse is also playing in Philadelphia and playing the basketball doubleheader down in Philadelphia. So just letting you both know about this now. That is the week before Thanksgiving. And there is a non-zero chance that Syracuse is playing in Philadelphia the same day that the USMNT is playing Paraguay in Philadelphia.
And I will be in Philadelphia that weekend for PAX. Huh. Okay.
Pre-Thanksgiving weekend is popping in Philadelphia, apparently.
I think that's also the Philadelphia Marathon weekend.
What the? Philly.
Oh.
Like,
Okay,
Philly
no,
is
cherry
absolute
on
mess.
top. Cherry on top. Are the Eagles at home that weekend?
Oh dear God, no! I already looked to see if Temple was playing at the Lincoln Financial Field, and the Temple is on a bye that week, which
November
means that
November 21st through 23rd is the Philadelphia Marathon.
Fortunately, the Eagles are not at home that weekend. The downside is they're playing the Cowboys, so a lot of Eagles fans will be mad.
So there's a non-zero chance that I was gonna say USA Soccer is either playing at the Union Stadium, or is playing at Lincoln Financial Field, and now I'm thinking it's going to be Lincoln Financial Field. There is no way they're going to have an empty
Yeah,
weekend at Lincoln.
no, it's in
Lincoln
Chester.
Financial Field.
It's in
Oh, it's in Chester. Okay, so that would be the Union Stadium.
Union
then.
Stadium.
Okay. Well, I was really hoping to do a doubleheader and just walk across the parking lot
Yeah.
from the Syracuse game to the USMNT game, but yeah. Anyways, just letting you all know about that because I thought that was fun, and there is some Syracuse adjacentness to the USA Soccerness there. No idea if Miles will be on the roster then, but could be a fun day for Miles and the rest of us.
That'll require him to actually be healthy and play a game of soccer.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We've got some time. We've got time.
It's true.
Yeah, but not looking great for Miles. I feel bad. All right, gents. I think that wraps up this week's edition of the Disloyal Idiots. Not coming to you from Philadelphia quite yet, but TBD on that front. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching live if you did on Twitch. Disloyal Idiots. We really appreciate the live show. We do this on Sunday nights ish at around 8 p.m. ish. Especially when I figure out how to get my Wi-Fi working from Not a Potato. Thank you to everybody who's listening and download this podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe. Help us trick the algorithm into expanding the Ottoman Empire ever wider. We really appreciate you sticking with us for yet another season of support here on Fans First Sports Network. Thank you again to our sister site. Troy Nunes is an absolute magician on SB Nation. You can catch some of our work over there, and you can catch all of Christian's non-viral tweets, over there as well. But yeah, should be a fun week for us. Again, Colgate Friday night, ACC Network. We'll be back Sunday to kind of recap all that, talk about hopefully an easy game and preview, and get ready to preview the hardest part of the schedule coming up. But it's going to be exciting. We're into the meat and potatoes of it all. And the Orange are 1-1, which, you know what? I'm just gonna smile and wave, boys. Go
That's
Orange.
That's where we thought they would be. It's not how we thought they would be, but it's where we thought they would be.
Whistle again. Whistle again. Whistle again.
Andy's going to be running sprints after this.